I'm asking that you guys be inspired by the way she treated people. All people.
Family and friends of Gabbypetito gathered in New York Sunday to say goodbye 1 week after the 22-year-old's remains were found in Wyoming.
It's about celebrating a beautiful person and a beautiful soul.
An empty urn was used during the memorial service as the FBI has not yet released Gabby's body to her family. Some who never even met Gabby made the trip just to pay their respects.
My youngest is 26, so I couldn't imagine this happening to any parent.
It just touched everybody in so many ways.
Another vigil for Gabby was held Saturday night in Northport, Florida, where the search for her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, continues. FBI agents Sunday morning visited his parents' home to get some of Brian's personal items for DNA matching. The search at a nearby nature preserve resumed Saturday. It's now gone on for more than a week with no sign of Brian. Drones, bloodhounds, swamp buggies, and dive teams have been brought in to help cover more than 25,000 acres of swampy terrain.
We're not wasting our time out here. We are doing our due diligence to find Brian and an area that intelligence had led us that he could possibly be in.
Instead of flowers, the family is asking for donations to the newly established Gabbypetito Foundation, set up to help other families of missing children. In Holbrook, New York, Laura Engel, Fox News.
And thank you to Laura Engel for that report. Again, everybody, be sure to stick with us here in just a couple of minutes. We will be joined again by Fox 13 Tampa's Kelly Cowan. She has been live outside of the Northport Police Department all morning long, giving us the latest on all of the developments that we saw over the weekend. From that video you saw of the FBI back at the family home of Laundrie to collect items for DNA matching, as well as the latest news surrounding the scaled back search at the Carlton Reserve yesterday. There was not as much manpower as you've seen over the last several days of the search. Kelly Cowan telling us that they actually focused a lot on drone and air searching. So we will continue bringing you every twist and turn when it comes to that case. In the meantime, I do want to bring us out to a report that we've got from our Fox 13 Tampa team from over the weekend. They are talking about the FBI being at the home, what they were looking for, and kind of neighbors' reactions to this spotlight that has been on Northport, Florida for a very long time now, as the search for Brian is ongoing. And the town is also missing Gabbypetito, who also used to live there with Laundrie and his family. Let's take a listen.
It's been more than a week and still no sign of Brian Laundrie. The Northport Police Department said on Sunday they scaled back the search around the 25,000-acre Carlton Reserve. It's the area where Laundrie's parents told police he went on a hike there on September 14th. That's the last time they heard from him. On Sunday afternoon, the FBI visited Laundrie's parents' house. Their family attorney, Stephen Bertolini, told Fox 13 via text message the FBI requested some personal items belonging to Brian Laundrie to assist them with DNA matching, also saying Brian's parents provided them with what they could. This investigation has put a bright spotlight on the neighborhood where the Laundrie family lives. It's not something neighbors are very used to.
Never in this town, ever. Nothing. That's brought in so many people and so many different agencies, law enforcement.
Jean Kornberger has lived in the neighborhood for 40 years and says she, along with many other neighbors, just want answers.
It's sad, but a lot of people are very upset with the Laundrie family. It's just captivating. It's an ongoing thing, and there's still more to find out. I mean, God rest Gabby's soul. She, got put to rest today.
A community-wide hope that the investigation ends soon. Reporting in Northport, Justin Matthews, Fox 13 News.
Again, a huge shout out to our Fox 13 Tampa team. They have had a team out there, a reporter out there every single day since this case and the twists and turns began to unfold. So again, we'll be checking in with their very own Kelly Cowan here in just a couple of minutes for an update on the search. She will most definitely be touching on the FBI showing up to the Laundrie family home yesterday as well. Meanwhile, I do want to bring to you this new audio that was released yesterday yesterday. We are continuing to follow the situation in Utah, where an independent investigation has been launched into the officers responding to the 911 call that alleged that Brian had slapped Gabby. It was that body cam footage that was released a couple of weeks ago. Well, we now have the 911 audio call from dispatchers to the police confirming that they did in fact notify them of the situation. So I do want to play it for you here on Live Now from Fox. Let's take a listen.
At CPA, do you have a phone number for the RP? Maybe you're still landline, and a location where our victim's at?
Phone number is name's. I'm not sure that, but the female who got hit, they both, the male and the female, both got into the van and headed north. Continuing attempt to locate, time lapse of about probably 40 seconds. RP states a male hit a female domestic. He got into a white Ford Transit van, has a black ladder on the back, Florida plate of. The van turned right onto Main Street from Moonflower Market and headed north onto Main Street, 1638.
At CPA, do you have a phone number for the RP? Maybe you're still landline,
So again, everybody, wanted to play that audio for you here on Live Now from Fox. Now, it's not a huge development because we saw the 911 call released last week. We also initially got that body cam footage, but again, just really bringing to light the situation out of Utah there, because this was the audio first obtained by the investigative unit at Fox 13 Utah, showing the dispatcher did in fact inform the officers of allegations that the Laundrie had been the aggressor in this situation. Many believe it's shedding a new light on a situation that initially seemed like police didn't know about the witnesses' claims. Now, according to Utah law, officers are required to make an arrest or issue a citation when they have probable cause to believe that an act of domestic violence has been committed. So Moab City officials announced an external investigation into their police department's handling of the call earlier last week. So this is something that we're going to continue to follow here on Live Now from Fox. Again, not a huge development, but just more audio that we were able to bring you here on our show. Meanwhile, I do want to bring you this next story courtesy of our Fox 13 Tampa team as well, because it's the question on everybody's mind. Is Brian Laundrie alive? Is he dead? Well, it's impossible to know right now. We still have those search efforts ongoing, but a renowned psychiatrist believes that there are some clues in Laundrie's behavior that may get us closer to that answer. Let's take a look.
Laundrie is alive or dead, but experts say his actions are clues. In the days after Gabbypetito's death, investigators say Laundrie used someone else's debit card, possibly Gabby's. He then drove cross-country in her van all the way back to Northport. And almost as soon as she was reported missing, Laundrie disappeared. At that point, it was roughly 2 weeks after her death.
Everybody sees the real person.
Dr. James Heisman is a renowned Florida psychiatrist who's currently writing a book on personality disorders. He says it's improper to diagnose Laundrie from afar, but based on reports, video, and Laundrie's actions, there are signs of narcissism. Heisman says this could have led to an abusive relationship with Gabby, and it can offer clues as to Laundrie's whereabouts.
In terms of this disorder, they have no core values. So they are very likely to run away, to hide, to think they can get away with it.
But he says everyone can reach a breaking point, especially with enough pressure from authorities who have spent days searching a wildlife refuge near the Laundrie home.
This is a time when self-harm issues or suicide can be triggered.
And if Laundrie is still alive, Dr. Heisman says there's probably a lot going through his mind.
There's a lot of manipulation when it comes to the access to or the personality disordered person, in terms of thinking they can manage things, thinking they can get away with things, also blaming the victim.
In Tampa, Aaron Mesmer, Fox 13 News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm just watching that.
And as promised, everybody, we are following every development in the case of the death and disappearance of Gabbypetito.
just watching the morning updates with you guys. How's everyone doing? I hope that we get some good news and they find Brian soon.
As well as the search for her fiance, Brian Laundrie. Now, the search at the Carlton Preserve out there in Venice, Florida, that you're currently taking a look at right now. This is some video that we have from the efforts being made over the weekend. Those actually slowed over the weekend, with Northport police saying they searched on a smaller scale and mostly by air on Sunday. However, police have yet to announce any further plans to search the area for the only person of interest in Gabbypetito's case. So, as I mentioned several times here on Live Now from Fox,
That microphone crackling is the TV. It's not me. Sorry about that, guys.
got our Fox 13 Tampa team boots on the ground out in Northport, Florida. They were also live for us all last week at the Carlton Reserve where those efforts were taking place. So I do want to bring into the conversation Fox 13 Tampa's Kelly Cowan. She is out there in Northport, Florida, outside of the police department with the latest. Good morning to you, Kelly.
Hey, good morning to you once again, Regina. So I've talked to the Northport police this morning. What they're telling me is that the FBI is the lead on all facets of this investigation. And as we mentioned when we last spoke, there's an FBI warrant for Brian Laundrie's arrest, that because of some alleged credit card fraud, debit card fraud. He was allegedly using someone's debit card without their permission. And what our analysts and legal experts have told us is that that was very likely Gabbypetito's card, because she would not have been able to give her permission after her death for him to be able to use that. So we know, according to the indictment, that he used the card on August 30th, and he is now a wanted man because of that. And that means that as soon as he is located, the FBI or any law enforcement agency can take him directly into custody. Now, the search of the Carlton Reserve has very much scaled down. It scaled down over the weekend from that heavy police and law enforcement presence that we saw for 6 straight days as they searched and yet found nothing. So now what Northport police are telling us is that they are still assisting in the search of the preserve, but it is on a much smaller scale. And now they're primarily relying on aerial units, so helicopters, planes, drones, to try to search that preserve. But no further information or any other details on the search effort there, any plans for this week, or any other areas that they could be looking for him. We also know that the FBI showed up at his house yesterday morning, and there they gathered some personal items of Brian's. And his parents' attorney tell us that they were there to collect items that would contain DNA. So what they're hoping to do is use that DNA to match anything else that they may have already found or that they may find in the future that could help them locate Brian.
Yeah, and Kelly, I'm glad you just clarified that, because we're playing some of that video right now of the FBI back at the Laundrie family home. And the first thing I feel like people think about when they hear DNA samples is that because they found a body? But obviously no word of that yet, right?
That's right. So we don't know exactly if they are trying to match to a body part, any other type of DNA that may have been left behind. So it could be something, where somebody has taken a sip out of a cup, put the cup down, and then you're trying to match DNA that may be left on that cup. It could be something a lot more serious where they have actually located Brian Laundrie's body. Now, there has been zero word of that, and we would expect a big announcement from the FBI, from the Northport police, from some agency if a body had been located, if they suspected that they had found Brian Laundrie. But to this point, no announcement has been made, no indications that they're anywhere close to finding Brian Laundrie at this point. So again, looking for that DNA to be able to make a match or comparison to anything that they may have found or may find in the future.
Now, in the meantime, Kelly, as the search is ongoing for Brian, we're also remembering the life of Gabbypetito, both in Northport and in Long Island as well over the weekend. What can you tell us about the services and tributes that have been made to her over the weekend?
It was a very emotional day yesterday. Hundreds packed into the funeral home in Long Island as they said goodbye to Gabbypetito. There were family members, friends, of course, but also complete strangers that have just been captivated and so interested in this case, so moved by and what her family was going through throughout the disappearance and the search for her. And so a lot of people just gathered together to say goodbye. You also had plenty of law enforcement showing up as well. This has just touched so many people in a very profound way. And so a lot of people wanted to be there, not only to say goodbye, but also show their respects to her family members who announced a new foundation that's been set up for Gabbypetito, the Gabbypetito Foundation. Her family asking that in lieu of flowers, people donate to that, because the idea behind the foundation, as her father's explained it via tweet, is that they don't want any other family to have to go through what they went through in searching for their daughter. They knew their daughter, they had a gut feeling that something bad had happened at the end of August. They weren't able to report her missing until September 11th, and then it still took another week for them to get many answers. Of course, they're still looking for a lot more answers in this case, but there are, of course, families out there that go years without knowing anything about their loved one. They often end up searching on their own for their loved ones. So this foundation being set up to give resources and guidance as well to families that might be looking for missing children.
All right. Well, Fox 13 Tampa's Kelly Cowan out there in Northport, Florida for us here on Live Now from Fox. Thank you so much for keeping us updated. We will be checking in with you and your team throughout the course of the day. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
And again, everybody, here is a look at those search efforts once again taking place over the weekend, and that we now know are being scaled back. Huge shout out to Kelly Cowan and her team for keeping us up to date here on Live Now from Fox. But again, we are keeping tabs on every twist and turn. You see the conditions out there that have been so difficult to search. We've heard from the Northport Police Department as well as other agencies out there. They've had law enforcement officers on ATVs, RTVs, and swamp buggies. They've been using drones. They've been using canines. So again, a lot of questions surrounding whether or not Brian is in this reserve. But obviously, as Kelly just said, they are going to be scaling back some of those efforts today. Not as much manpower, not as much heavy of a presence than you saw last week. So this is something that we're going to continue to stay on top of here on Live Now from Fox. Some of you are going to see a quick 2-minute commercial break. When we return, we are going to bring you some other top stories that we're following this morning as well, and continue to dip in and out of this coverage surrounding the latest on the search for Brian Laundrie, the arrest warrant out for him now due to credit card fraud, as well as the FBI showing up to his house yesterday for objects or any personal items that could be used for DNA matching. So stay with us, everybody. More top stories are coming up after this 2-minute commercial break.
All right, let me fast forward a little bit because I had rewound a little bit so we could get the whole story this morning. Let's see if they give us anything else. I'm assuming they're just going to be showing shots of them searching the reserve. Yeah, this looks like other type of news coverage. What's this?
Than it did just 1 week ago.
Yeah, this is about Washington and all that. Let me see what else I can pull up. And thank you again, everyone, for being here. It's just a little morning live, just while I can give you some updates. We really don't have many updates. I have written some down, and we'll play this other little clip.
Efforts at the Carlton Reserve that we've seen for the last week, now more than a week, is getting scaled back just a little bit. So as we follow all of the developments on this Monday morning, I do want to bring into the conversation Fox 13 Tampa's Kelly Cowan out there in Northport, Florida, continuing to follow this story for us. Kelly, good morning to you. What can you tell our viewers this morning?
Hey, good morning, Regina. Well, the Northport police have really scaled things back significantly over the weekend in their search of the Carlton Reserve. So, as you mentioned, we had 6 days of exhaustive searching of that nature preserve, that massive 25,000 acre preserve, where you had dozens of law enforcement officers during those 6 days going in with scent tracking dogs. They had swamp buggies, they had ATVs, drones in the air, just a really complete search. And yet they seem to have found no signs of Brian Laundrie there, or at least they certainly haven't found him. So to this point, we know, according to his parents, that he went into the preserve on September 14th and no one has seen him since. And the Northport police say they do have intelligence, or at least something that's leading them back to the preserve. But as we saw over the weekend, things definitely slowed down. So a lot less active over the weekend. In fact, we didn't even see law enforcement on the ground there. Instead, they tell us that they've scaled things back and they're now primarily relying on aerial units in their search of the preserve. And they've yet to make any formal announcements on whether or not they will be continuing the search of that area.
Yeah, Kelly, I was just going to say, so if not searching this Carlton Reserve, where to next?
Well, they haven't said anything about that, but they did collect DNA samples from his home yesterday. So the FBI arrived at the Laundrie family home yesterday. According to the Laundrie family attorney, they allowed him to take away a couple personal items from Brian Laundrie, and they're going to use that for not only gathering a sample of Brian's DNA, but also so that they can use that to compare to any items that perhaps they found in the Carlton Reserve as they were searching it, or they might find in the future. Because, of course, if they can make a match between items that they find as they're looking for him, it would give them more information about at least where he's been or where he still may be.
Yeah, and Kelly, for those of our viewers who may just be catching up on this case, I understand that there is now officially an arrest warrant out for Brian, but it's not related to Gabby's death or disappearance, right?
That's right, not directly related to her death. So the indictment says that it's for credit card fraud, essentially bank fraud. So what he's accused of doing was using someone else's, the indictment doesn't say whose, debit card without their permission. So illegally using that, that's a federal level offense. And that would allow law enforcement to take him in immediately as soon as he is found. But the interesting thing there, and that what his attorney has pointed out, his attorney used some interesting language saying that he's accused of something that would have happened after Gabby's death. Now, we don't know exactly the date when Gabby is determined to have been killed. So what's interesting with that is that he's accused of using someone's card illegally without permission. It could be Gabby's card. It most likely is, according to our law enforcement sources, who say that if she was dead, she wouldn't have been able to give permission. And also, because they're following this case so closely, because they're up on not only her banking records, but also what he's been doing or what he was doing before he went missing, well, they were able to get that warrant down very quickly, as opposed to, say, he found somebody random's card and was using that, accused of using that. So it is very much believed that that was Gabby's card and that he used it on August 30th after she had already been killed.
Yeah. Now, Kelly, I know you're out there in Northport, Florida. A lot of people have been out there in Northport, Florida. We actually recently did play a report from your Fox 13 Tampa team. You know, there's been such a spotlight on the neighborhood, such a large police presence at the Laundrie family home and around the block. You know, what have neighbors had to say about the spotlight that has been on this little Florida neighborhood?
Well, obviously, they're just not used to that kind of attention on that street. It's a pretty quiet street, and you can tell when you drive down it. I mean, it's a street that doesn't even have sidewalks. They're not used to this kind of vehicle traffic parking, and in the yards, essentially, is what you have to do because there aren't any easy places to pull over in that neighborhood. So you've also had police tape around the house as police have sort of formed a perimeter around the house. We understand some of the neighbors have even been renting out their driveways to some of the network news stations and other photographers who want to set up in the driveways so that they get a better shot of the home. I mean, it's just been surreal for those neighbors who not only the ones that we've talked to say that, you know, they would enjoy a little peace and quiet, but more so they want a resolution to this. They want to see Brian Laundrie, if he is indeed guilty of killing Gabbypetito, they want to see justice here is what they're saying.
Absolutely. Well, Fox 13 Tampa's Kelly Cowan out there in Northport, Florida for us. We'll be checking in with you again here on our show. And thank you so much for keeping our viewers updated as we follow all these developments. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Today I'm going to show you. All right, let's see what else I can bring to you and show you. It looks like those were the morning updates. Can you guys still hear me? Yeah, it looks like right now they're showing some news out of Washington, D.C. So we pretty much ran through all the updates. I've written them down so we can just go through them again. So first off, over the weekend, the Laundrie family said to the Petito family pretty much in regards to Gabby's services, they said something along the lines of, may she rest in peace. They spoke through the lawyer, and it was just something very short like that, may she rest in peace. And then the lawyer for the family put out a statement over the weekend, and it said, it is my understanding that the arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie is related to activities occurring after the death of Gabby Petito and not related to her actual demise. So people have found that very interesting, that he came out and said that. Hi, Allie79. Good morning. So people were, kind of dumbfounded that the lawyer came out and saying, like, his arrest warrant has nothing to do with Gabby's death. All that happened afterwards. And everyone was kind of like pondering, like, why? How do you know when she died? Like, how do you know that the credit card use on the 30th and the 31st was after she died? So it's like, at this point, they can't even try to say Brian and Gabby parted ways and something happened to Gabby once Brian was gone, because now the lawyers come out and said, like, well, that credit card use, yeah, that was after she passed. So it has nothing to do with him. Honestly, if I was that Laundrie family, I'd be firing the lawyer. Like, why would you say that? Like, that to me was just a total mistake on his part. And then what else do I have for the updates? The Gabbypetito Foundation was created. And that, like they said, is just a foundation that the family has created and wants to have in Gabby's name for families in the future who have missing children. So I don't have the link that you guys can donate to that, but I do have the family's GoFundMe link in my description box, and you'll find it in every Gabbypetito video I've done so far. I've linked their family GoFundMe. So once I get the link for the Gabby Foundation, I would be happy to link that as well in my future videos. Let's see, what else do I have? So the urn at the funeral and the services, they came out and said that the urn was actually empty. Her body has not been given back to the family just yet. FBI still holding on to it. As we know, the other update was they went to the Laundrie family's house and collected some sort of remnants of DNA that they could use, which I think was interesting, because if he's not being charged or tied to the death just yet, that was they were being very helpful, I guess, to give any sort of DNA to this investigation. So that is good. What other update do I have? And then I got to get off this live, and we will talk again, obviously, when there is other updates. Okay, so the search at the reserve is being scaled back. Hardcore, they said they're just pretty much going to work on drone and aerial search. which I think is interesting because a lot of people were wondering if they were at the reserve looking for Brian or if they're possibly looking for a weapon, etc. You know, maybe not necessarily him, but something that could link him to the crimes. So if they're just going by drone and aerial search for the most part of it, then I think that's interesting. Yeah, they I'm just looking at chat, Ginger. They did have the service yesterday in the funeral. She will be cremated. They've come out to say that her body will be cremated, but the urn that they had at the services, it was just symbolic, as they have yet to receive her body. You know, just part of the investigation. I'm sure they're just gonna hold on to whatever they have to do. But now her soul and spirit, the family has memorialized and has laid to rest. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit longer for them to receive the body. And I'm sure the collection of DNA evidence from Brian Laundrie's house has a lot to do with them kind of waiting to cremate her. So, and then the other update that we got over the weekend was, without a doubt, 100%, the law enforcement in Moab, Utah were aware that Brian had hit Gabby. And we all assumed and wondered, you know, did they or didn't they know? We have 100% confirmation now that it's true. They do know. And they did know that there was a dispute that got physical from Brian to her. So now that if we ever looked at the footage again, knowing that the police officers knew 100%, because at first we were kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt, like maybe there was miscommunication, maybe they didn't know like what was seen, but it's been confirmed that they knew. So those are pretty much the only morning updates I have right now. They are still not really showing it on the morning news. They've kind of run through the updates like we did. So I'm just going to get back to my other duties. And I think you guys know it involves the little one over there. So, oh, good morning, Nicole. It was just a little bit of an update. It's not much of a long live. So if you guys want to go back, it's only 32 minutes long, give you everything you need to know. So I will talk to you all soon. And as soon as I see something or, you know, hear something, I'll put out a video and we will talk again. And hopefully we get some good news today. They catch Brian and we get 100% justice for Gabby.